Can employers still use waivers in things like severance agreements? The short answer to that is yes, but the protections are not as strong. And in this series, I've been going through some common employment agreements because there is a movement toward more balance of power between employer and employee. I'm Nancy Schick of 30-Year Conflict Resolution. We're an employment law and mediation firm that takes a holistic approach to resolving workplace disputes. So we end up in a lot of conversations around those restrictive covenants. And that's why I decided to do this short series, because there are a lot of changes on the horizon. And so what we're looking at is to first just determine which ones you need. There's a tendency to just kind of do that groupthink thing where you follow along and everybody else you think is doing it. So you download the severance agreement and an employment agreement and a non-compete, et cetera. But you haven't really thought about what are you trying to accomplish with those? So that's the first step you want to take is, are you trying to, with a waiver, and these are usually in the severance agreements when someone's leaving, are you trying to have them waive all possible claims? If you are, that's probably not going to be upheld in court if your employee decides, or your former employee decides to challenge you on that. If you're trying to get them to waive all sexual harassment claims, for example, or potential claims, then no, you're not going to be able to do that. Class actions, no. Workers' compensation, no. Are you starting to get an idea of the public policy behind that? Because that's the next thing we're going to look at, is you want to consider why we even have these limitations on restrictive covenants. And if you think about it, it does kind of make sense. We're trying to balance that power between employer and employee. We want people to be able to work. We also want them to be safe while they're working. And sexual harassment does not make them safe. Discrimination does not make them safe. And obviously, if they get injured physically, we want them to be able to get their workers' compensation benefits so that they can get their medical care and their lost earnings. That's the public policy behind those laws. So you might be wondering at this point, should you even have a severance? Do you even pay anything? It's not required, so it is something to consider. But it's also something that's kind, generous, and compassionate when, for example, you're terminating or laying someone off. It gives them a little bit of a runway so that they can start looking for replacement employment and not be unable to pay their bills. So you want to consider, does that fit with who you say you are as a business? Now, if you're not sure which of these agreements you need, which ones that you should be using, if you want to review some of your current ones to make sure they're compliant with the wave of changes that's coming, then click that link below and schedule a consultation with me. And in the meantime, keep listening with your third ear for those hurts you can heal.